Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today's tutorial was actually requested by one of my subscribers. I'll be showing you guys how I made this dress from start to finish. If that's what you're here for, make sure you stick around and watch this video till the end. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is to draft my pattern. I'll start with the neckline, and for this I'm using 3 inches width and 3 inches depth. That's a 3 by 3 neckline. Next thing I'm going to do is to get my shoulder, which is 16 inches. I'm going to divide that by 2, which gives me 8 inches. And after doing that, I'm going to get my sleeve length. You can choose to go with whatever length you want for your sleeve, but for me, I'm doing 8 inches. So from that shoulder, I'm going to extend it by 8 inches, and I'm going to come down from that point by 1.5 inches. I'm going to connect all my points. Next, I'm going to put down all my vertical measurements. So you don't exactly need your chest line for this. So I'm just going to put down my bust line, my under bust line, my waistline, and then from the waistline, I'm going to come down by 5 inches. And I'm also going to repeat this same thing on the other side and connect all my points. All my lines, I'm just going to label them. So this is my bust line, this is my under bust line, this is my waistline, and this is my hemline. So the next thing I'm going to do is come down with a straight line to my bust line, depending on how open you want your sleeve opening to be. I want mine on my bust line, so I'm just going to repeat this shoulder measurements we have here, which is 16 inches. I'm going to put that down here and connect with a straight line. Yes. So after doing that, I'm going to get my round measurements, starting with my under bust measurement. I'm going to divide my round under bust measurement by 4. I'm going to put that down and I'm going to add an extra 5 inches, okay? The top part of this dress is going to be gathered, so we need extra space. So 5 inches is enough for me. So I'm going to put down an extra 5 inches to the under bust line, and then on my waistline, I'm going to put down my round waist measurement divided by 4. On my hemline, I'm simply going to take my round hip measurement divided by 4, and I'm going to put that down and connect all my points. So if you watch closely, this design has a basque on the waistline. So from the hemline, I'm just going to go up by 2 inches, okay? And I'm going to connect that with a curve back into the hemline. This gives it that slightly basque effect. So the next thing I'm going to do is to connect from the under bust line to the bust line using a curve. Now we're going to start the connection from the extra 5 inches on the under bust line, okay? And I'm going to connect that with a curve. And after doing that, I'm just going to cut out my front piece. So now, as you can see, we have 2 parts. The next thing I'm going to do is to work on the neckline. So from my neckline, I'm going to connect with a slant line into the under bust, giving me that V neckline. And after doing that, I'm going to cut it out. So now we have our pattern, and I'll be using this to cut both the front and the back. This is the fabric I'll be using for this dress. I have it in 6 yards, but I'll be using about 3.5 yards for this dress. At this point, I have transferred my pattern piece to my fabric, and as you can see, I have 2 pieces of each. I have both the main fabric and the lining piece, and I also went ahead to add an interfacing to my fabric. As you can see, I don't have an opening at the center back because I don't want a zipper at the back. But if you want a zipper at your back, you can just go ahead to add about 1 inch to 1.5 inches for your zipper allowance, and then you can proceed to split it open. I've already cut out the top part. I cut 2 pieces for the front and I overlapped them on each other. Next, I'm going to hem the neckline by folding it in with about 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I've done that at this point, and the next thing I'm going to do is to overlap my front pieces by 2 inches. After overlapping, I'll cross-check to see if the opening at the chest area looks okay. Now this really depends on how deep you want yours to be. So after doing that, I'll go ahead and pin it down just to hold it in place. And once I'm satisfied with how the neckline sits and how open it is, I'll take the fabric to my sewing machine and start gathering along the underbust area. To create the gathers, I'm going to set my stitch length to the longest, and then I'll gently pull on the top thread to form the gathers. I like to pull it slowly so it doesn't break. So I've already gathered it. As you can see, it's looking really good. Now I'm just going to place the fabric right sides facing, and I'm going to make sure both parts align properly. Now, if you notice any area that needs a little adjustment, just go ahead and fix it so the gathers can sit neatly. Once everything aligns, place the fabric right sides facing each other, pin them down, and then stitch with 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I've done that, and you can see how neat it is looking. The next thing I'm going to do is to attach my lining piece on the main fabric. Just watch closely to see how I do this. I'm going to attach my lining fabric on it. So I'm just going to place my lining fabric over here, and I'm going to run a stitch on it. So I've done that. I'm just going to flip it over to the other side so you can see what it looks like on the front. That's how neat it's coming together. Then I'll go ahead and repeat the same process for the back piece as well. The next thing I'm going to do is to stitch the sleeve hem using 1/2 inch seam allowance. Yes, so as you can see on both sides, I've closed up the sleeves. I did the same thing on the other side and on the back piece. So the next thing I'm going to do is right sides facing, I'm going to close the shoulders. Okay, so I'm going to place right sides facing each other like this, and I'm just going to close the shoulders. I'm going to pin this together right here. The next thing I did was to press open the seams on the shoulder. As you can see, I've already done that and it is nicely pressed. Next, I'll go ahead to stitch the sides and insert my loops. Each loop is about 25 inches long and I have 4 loops in total. After inserting the loops, I'm also going to seal up the neckline area so the loop stays in place. That will create the ruched effect on the shoulder. This is what the dress looks like basically. I've already fixed that in. As you can see, it's gathered on this part. So the next I'm going to do is to stitch the sides closed just like this. So I'm using 1 inch for this part, and then I'm just going to stitch this part closed with my allowance, and I'm going to leave this other side open because I want the zip to be on the side. I don't want it to be at my back, so I want it to be on the side, so I'm going to leave this side open. So the next thing I'm going to do is to attach my gathers. Now, to get the formula for the gathers, I simply used my round hip measurement multiplied by 2.5. If you want your dress fuller, you can multiply your round hip by 3 or even more, depending on how full you want it to be basically. So I've already cut out the fabric for my gathers, and now I'm going to just gather it up and attach it to the upper part of the dress. I have attached my gathers to the upper part of the dress, and I also took it to my overlocking machine to knitting the edge. Now the next thing I'm going to do is attach my zipper on one side. I'll be stitching the zipper with 1 inch seam allowance. I have fixed the zipper, and the last thing I'm going to do is to hem the bottom using 1/2 inch seam allowance. And that's it for this tutorial, guys. Our dress is all done. Let me know in the comments if you'll be trying out this tutorial. I'd really love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you learned something new, please hit the subscribe button, give it a like, and share it with someone who might be interested in this tutorial. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.